Commander Kate Harrison stood at the helm of the UES Prometheus, her fingers drumming a quiet rhythm against the polished surface of her command chair. The bridge hummed with the whisper-quiet efficiency that only the most advanced human engineering could achieve. Through the panoramic viewing screen, stars stretched endlessly into the void of the Orion sector, their ancient light a reminder of just how far humanity had come. "Contact," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from his sensor station, his voice cutting through the comfortable silence. Multiple signatures entering detection range. Energy profiles match known Xarthi configurations. Harrison's drumming stopped. Her steel-blue eyes narrowed as the tactical display materialized before her, showing a cascade of red dots appearing at the edge of their sensor range. Numbers: 27. No, 32 vessels. Rodriguez replied, his dark eyebrows rising. Dreadnought class and support craft. They're running hot, Commander. Weapons primed and shields at maximum. A small smile played at the corner of Harrison's lips. Everything was proceeding exactly as Earth Command had predicted. The Xarthi never could resist a show of force when they detected a lone vessel in their claimed territory. "Mercury," Harrison called out to the ship's eye companion. "Give me a threat assessment." The AI's response came in smooth, measured tones through the bridge speakers. The Xarthi battle group possesses sufficient conventional firepower to destroy 3 Earth fleets. Their current formation suggests they intend to demonstrate overwhelming superiority rather than immediate hostility. "Perfect," Harrison muttered. She straightened in her chair, adjusting her midnight blue uniform with practiced precision. "Let's give them something to look at. Drop our stealth fields and power down all secondary systems. Make us look vulnerable." The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances as they carried out her orders. The Prometheus's outer hull, normally rippling with barely visible quantum distortions, settled into a deceptively simple configuration. To any outside observer, the ship now appeared to be nothing more than a moderately advanced exploration vessel, hardly worthy of a second glance. The incoming transmission alert chimed exactly when Harrison expected it would. "Put them through," she ordered, carefully arranging her features into an expression of mild concern. The holographic display flared to life, revealing the towering form of a Xarthi admiral. His scaled face was adorned with the ceremonial markings of a fleet commander, gleaming cybernetic implants framing his yellow eyes. Those eyes widened noticeably as they took in the Prometheus's bridge and her human crew. "What manner of jest is this?" The Admiral's translator conveyed his rumbling speech. "The mighty Earth Command sends a single tiny vessel into contested space. Have your leaders finally lost what little sense they possessed?" Harrison kept her voice carefully neutral, with just a hint of uncertainty. "Admiral, the UES Prometheus is on a peaceful research mission. We were unaware this sector was under dispute." The alien commander's laugh was like grinding stones. "Research? In a ship barely large enough to house a proper crew." Other Xarthi bridge officers visible in the transmission joined in the mockery, their scaled faces contorted in expressions of amusement. "Your vessel is smaller than our support craft. We operate with a minimal crew complement," Harrison explained, letting a note of defensiveness creep into her voice. "Our mission requires only basic." "Your mission," the Admiral interrupted, "is about to be terminated. The only question is whether your vessel will be added to our collection of primitive curiosities, intact or as debris." His massive form leaned closer to the transmission pickup. "Though I must admit, I am curious how humans expected to accomplish anything with such an inadequate ship." Harrison allowed herself to swallow visibly, playing to their expectations. Behind her, the bridge crew continued their preparations, their movements deliberately slow and anxious appearing. The quantum cores deep within the Prometheus's hull continued their silent power-up sequence, undetectable by any known scanning technology. "Admiral," Harrison spoke carefully, "perhaps we could discuss." "There is nothing to discuss, little human." The Xarthi commander waved a clawed hand dismissively. "You have 1 standard hour to prepare your vessel for boarding and inspection. Resist, and we will demonstrate what real warships are capable of." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in momentary silence. Harrison's practiced nervousness melted away, replaced by a predatory grin that would have given the Xarthi admiral pause had he seen it. "Well," she addressed her crew, "shall we give them their physics lesson?" The moment the transmission ended, the bridge of the Prometheus transformed from a scene of apparent nervous uncertainty to one of precise military efficiency. Commander Harrison's relaxed posture shifted as she activated her neural link to Mercury, the ship's quantum eye. "Status report on the fold drives," she sub-vocalized, her thoughts carried directly to the ship's systems. Mercury's response materialized in her mind as a cascade of data. All quantum cores are operating at 97% efficiency. Dimensional interfaces are primed and ready for deployment. The Xarthi continue to scan us with conventional sensors, detecting exactly what we want them to see. Lieutenant Rodriguez monitored the alien fleet's movements on his tactical display, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "They're arranging themselves in a Therox formation, Commander. Classic encirclement pattern. They're not even trying to hide their intentions. Why should they?" Harrison smiled, standing to pace the bridge's perimeter. From their perspective, we're nothing but a lost lamb that wandered into the wolf's den. She paused behind Engineering Officer Chen's station, watching as the young woman made microscopic adjustments to the quantum field harmonics. "Commander," Chen spoke without looking up from her work, "I've synchronized all 5-dimensional anchors. When we initiate the Mobius protocol, we'll have access to at least 7 parallel attack vectors." Her fingers continued their intricate dance across the controls. "They won't know what hit them." Harrison nodded approvingly. "Mercury, show me what they're seeing." A holographic representation appeared above the bridge's central console, displaying the Prometheus as it appeared to the Xarthi sensors. The image showed a vessel that seemed almost pitifully simple: basic shield emitters, standard propulsion systems, and what appeared to be outdated weapons arrays. The true nature of their ship, the quantum-folded spaces, the dimensional slip drives, the reality-warping weapon systems, remained completely invisible to the aliens' most sophisticated scanning equipment. "Their tactical officers are having quite a laugh," Mercury reported, its voice carrying a hint of amusement. "They're already discussing how they'll divide up our primitive technology for study. One of them suggested turning our bridge into a recreational area." The bridge crew shared knowing looks. They'd trained for months for this mission, perfecting the art of appearing less than they were. Every nervous gesture, every hesitation in their responses, had been carefully choreographed to reinforce the Xarthi's fatal assumption of superiority. "Time check," Harrison called out. 43 minutes until their deadline," Rodriguez responded. "The fleet's support vessels are moving into position for a mass boarding action. They're not even bothering to mask their approach vectors." Harrison returned to her command chair, settling into it with the calm assurance of a predator watching prey walk into a trap. "Chen, start bleeding minimal power signatures from the port nacelles. Make it look like we're having containment issues." "Aye, Commander," adding a slight oscillation to make it more convincing. Chen's fingers flew across her console. "They'll think our power core is destabilizing from fear." The massive Xarthi vessels loomed larger in their viewing screen, their hull plating decorated with kill markers from previous conquests. Harrison could almost feel their contempt radiating across the void. These were warriors who had never known defeat, who saw humanity as barely worthy of their attention. "Mercury," Harrison spoke aloud this time, "begin final preparations for the Mobius protocol. I want all quantum systems ready the moment they make their move." "Acknowledged, Commander. Quantum cores are spooling to maximum capacity. Dimensional interfaces are primed. All weapons systems are synchronized with the fold matrix." A new transmission alert flashed across their screens. The Xarthi admiral's massive form appeared once again, his expression even more condescending than before. "We grow tired of waiting, little humans," he growled. "Perhaps we should demonstrate our power now, to ensure your cooperation." Harrison allowed fear to color her voice as she responded. "Please, Admiral. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. If you could just give us a few more minutes." Technical difficulties. The Admiral barked a laugh that his subordinates quickly echoed. "I suppose we should expect nothing less from such primitive engineering. Very well, you have 5 more minutes. Then we will show you what real technology looks like." As the transmission ended, Harrison's facade of fear melted into a wolfish grin. "Oh, Admiral," she whispered, "you have no idea what real technology looks like. But you're about to find out." 4 minutes into their 5-minute reprieve, the Prometheus's bridge crew worked with deliberate sluggishness, every action calculated to reinforce their deception. Commander Harrison watched as the massive Xarthi vessels drew ever closer, their weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies now," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with suppressed excitement. "They want an audience for this." Harrison nodded, knowing this, too, was part of the plan. "How many species are monitoring the transmission?" "At least 15 distinct civilizations have active receivers targeted on this sector," Mercury answered. "The Xarthi are making quite sure everyone sees what happens to presumptuous humans who venture into their space." The corner of Harrison's mouth twitched upward. Earth Command couldn't have asked for a better stage if they'd arranged it themselves. The gathered audience would ensure that what happened next would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. "Incoming transmission," Rodriguez announced, just as their 5 minutes expired. The Xarthi Admiral's massive form materialized once again in their holographic display. His scaled face wore an expression of theatrical disappointment. "Time's up, little humans. Have you prepared yourselves to surrender, or must we demonstrate our superiority more forcefully?" Harrison stood, assuming a posture of desperate diplomacy. "Admiral, please. We're a research vessel. Our engines are barely holding together. If you just allow us to contact Earth Command." "Enough." The Admiral's cybernetic eyes flashed. "Your pathetic attempts at delay grow tiresome. Perhaps you need motivation to understand your situation." He turned to one of his officers. "Target their propulsion systems. A precise hit should disable them without destroying our new trophy." Harrison watched as one of the smaller Xarthi vessels moved into firing position. Behind her, Chen's fingers hovered over the quantum core controls, ready to execute their true strategy. The entire bridge crew held their breath, waiting for the moment everything would change. "You know," the Admiral continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "I studied your species' brief history in space. Such fumbling attempts at joining the galactic community. Your ships are too small, your weapons too weak, your understanding of physics too limited." He leaned forward, filling the holographic display with his massive head. "Did you truly believe you could challenge us with this toy?" Harrison allowed her diplomatic mask to crack slightly, letting anger show through. It wasn't entirely an act. The Admiral's words echoed every dismissive comment humanity had endured since achieving spaceflight. "Our ship may not meet your standards, Admiral, but your ship," he interrupted, "wouldn't qualify as a pleasure craft in our society. The fact that you consider it a military vessel would be amusing if it weren't so pathetic." He gestured to someone off-screen. "Show them." The smaller Xarthi vessel fired a precise burst of plasma energy, aimed directly at the Prometheus's engine section. The bridge crew flinched convincingly as the bolt approached, all except Harrison, who had to force herself not to smile. The plasma burst passed through the exact spot where the Prometheus's conventional shields would have been, seemingly scoring a direct hit on their propulsion systems. In reality, the energy dissipated harmlessly into a pocket dimension, leaving their systems untouched. "Direct hit on their primary drive," one of the Xarthi officers reported, unable to keep the glee from his voice. "Their power grid is fluctuating. They're helpless, Admiral." The Admiral's satisfaction was palpable. "Now then, Commander Harrison, shall we discuss the terms of your surrender? I promise we'll take good care of your little vessel. It will make an excellent addition to our Museum of Primitive Technologies." Harrison lowered her head, appearing to fight back tears of frustration. When she spoke, her voice trembled perfectly. "Please, just give me one moment to inform my crew." "By all means," the Admiral gestured magnanimously. "Let them know that their careers as pretend warriors are over. It's time they learned their proper place in the galaxy." As the transmission cut off, Harrison's trembling transformed into silent laughter. She turned to her crew, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Mercury, initiate the Mobius Protocol. Let's show them humanity's proper place in the galaxy." The quantum cores began to sing. The quantum core's harmonious resonance built from a whisper to a symphony that only the Prometheus's crew could hear. Commander Harrison settled into her command chair, all pretense of fear falling away like a discarded cloak. Around her, the bridge transformed as hidden systems emerged from dimensional pockets, revealing their true tactical stations. Multiple target locks from the Xarthi fleet, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady as years of training took over. "They're preparing to disable our remaining systems." "Let them try." Harrison's fingers danced across the newly materialized quantum interface in her chair's armrest. "Mercury, status of the Mobius Protocol." "Quantum fold matrices at full power," the AI responded. "Dimensional anchors secured. Ready to reveal our true configuration on your mark, Commander." The incoming transmission alert flashed again. Harrison nodded to Rodriguez, and the Xarthi Admiral's massive form appeared one final time. His expression of smug superiority was about to become her most treasured memory. "Your time is up, Commander Harrison. Prepare to be boarded, and we may show mercy to your crew of—" what was it? Pretend warriors. Harrison straightened in her chair, allowing her true bearing as a quantum fleet commander to show through. "Actually, Admiral, I thought we might discuss an alternate proposal." The Admiral's cybernetic eyes narrowed at her change in demeanor. "You dare to—" "Mercury," Harrison interrupted. "Drop the masking field. Let's show them what they're actually dealing with." The Prometheus's hull began to shimmer as layers of quantum-folded space peeled back like blooming flower petals. The ship's true form emerged from higher dimensions, its surface rippling with patterns that made the Xarthi sensors scream in protest. Warning alerts blared across their bridge as their scanning systems failed to process what they were seeing. "What trickery is this?" the Admiral demanded, his previous confidence cracking. "Our scans show your vessel in 3. No, 5 locations simultaneously." "Quantum targeting solutions acquired," Rodriguez announced with professional calm. "All 32 hostile vessels marked for dimensional interruption." The Admiral's scales had lost their luster as he watched his sensor readings descend into chaos. "What are you?" "We are humanity," Harrison replied, her voice carrying the weight of every dismissive comment, every mockery her species had endured. "And we're about to give you a lesson in physics your people haven't even imagined yet." She nodded to Chen. "Let's show them what a primitive human ship can do. Single shot, minimal yield, if you please." Chen's fingers flew across her quantum interface. Target locked on their smallest escort vessel. Firing solution plotted through dimensional fold 7. The Prometheus's hull rippled again as a weapon port emerged from a space that hadn't existed moments before. A pulse of energy, barely visible to conventional sensors, lanced out at the targeted Xarthi ship. The beam seemed to bend in ways that made the alien gunner's eyes water before it struck its target. The escort vessel didn't explode. Instead, a perfect sphere of its hull simply ceased to exist, the edges cut so cleanly they gleamed. The sphere's diameter was exactly 1 meter, but it penetrated straight through the ship's quantum-reinforced armor like it was nothing more than holographic mist. Silence fell across all communication channels as the crippled vessel's crew rushed to contain the damage. The Admiral's face had transformed from confident to horrified in the span of seconds. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our shields, the armor, were irrelevant." Harrison finished for him. "You can't block an attack that strikes from between dimensions." She leaned forward in her chair. "That was our lowest yield weapon, Admiral. Would you like to see what happens when we actually try to cause damage?" The Admiral's response was cut off as his tactical officer screamed, "Energy spike. They're charging weapons through multiple dimensional." The translation dissolved into garbled confusion as the officer tried to describe sensor readings his language had no words for. Harrison's smile was razor-sharp as she addressed her crew. "Remove the rest of our quantum camouflage. Let's give our audience a proper demonstration of human engineering." The Prometheus's hull began to unfold in ways that would haunt the Xarthi gunners' nightmares for years to come. And the real battle was about to begin. Reality fractured around the Prometheus as its hull continued to unfold. What had appeared to be smooth metal plating split along geometric lines that shouldn't exist, revealing weapon systems housed in spaces that violated every known law of physics. The ship seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, its form rippling between dimensions like a mirage made of quicksilver and shadow. Multiple Xarthi vessels attempting emergency quantum jumps, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding on his tactical display. "Their drive signatures are destabilizing. They can't maintain a lock on normal space." Harrison nodded, understanding their difficulty. The Prometheus's quantum wake disrupted conventional faster-than-light technologies, trapping the alien fleet in normal space. "Mercury, status of our dimensional anchors." "All anchors holding steady," the AI responded. "We're maintaining stable positions across 7-dimensional planes. The Xarthi sensors are experiencing complete cascade failure trying to track our configuration." On the main view screen, the alien fleet's formation had devolved into chaos. Several ships collided with each other as their pilots struggled to process visual data that their brains weren't equipped to handle. The Prometheus appeared to be everywhere and nowhere, its outline shifting and multiplying as it revealed more of its true nature. "Commander," Chen called out from her station, excitement evident in her voice. "The quantum cores are performing beyond projected specifications. We're achieving 9-dimensional overlap in sectors 7 through 12. Harrison allowed herself a moment of pride. The engineers back on Earth had outdone themselves. "Show me their command ship's bridge feed." The view screen shifted to show the Xarthi flagship's command center. Gone was the previous order and arrogance. Officers rushed between stations, their scales pale with fear as alerts blared from every console. The Admiral stood frozen, his cybernetic eyes trying and failing to process what his sensors were telling him. Impossible readings from all sectors. One of his officers shouted, "The human vessel. It's projecting weapons through spaces that don't exist. Our shields are registering impacts before the attacks are even launched." Harrison opened a channel to the flagship. "Having trouble understanding what you're seeing, Admiral. Perhaps you'd like a closer look at our primitive technology." The Prometheus's outer hull completed its transformation. Weapon ports that had been concealed in pocket dimensions now bristled from angles that made the Xarthi gunners' targeting systems shut down in self-defense. The ship's quantum field expanded, causing ripples in space-time that distorted the very fabric of reality around them. "What are you?" the Admiral demanded, his voice cracking. "This defies all known physics." "Known to you, perhaps." Harrison's voice was cold. "While you were mocking our small ships and limited understanding of physics, humanity was learning to fold space itself. We don't need massive vessels when we can store our systems in dimensional pockets. We don't need conventional weapons when we can strike from angles that don't exist in normal space." To demonstrate her point, she nodded to Chen. The engineering officer activated one of their secondary arrays, causing a section of the Prometheus's hull to rotate through 5 dimensions at once. The sight caused several Xarthi bridge officers to collapse, their minds unable to process the geometric impossibility before them. "Mercury," Harrison commanded, "deploy the quantum cascade array. Let's give them a proper demonstration of human engineering." The space around the Prometheus erupted with geometric patterns that seemed to eat into reality itself. Weapon ports appeared and disappeared in impossible sequences, each one targeting a different Xarthi vessel. The alien fleet's shields flared uselessly as attacks struck them from directions their defenses couldn't even register. "Your weapons and shields operate in 3 dimensions, Admiral," Harrison explained, almost gently. "Ours do not share that limitation. Would you like to continue this encounter, or shall we discuss terms for your surrender?" The Admiral's response was lost in a cacophony of alerts as his flagship's sensors detected weapon locks from 12 different dimensional planes simultaneously. The mighty Xarthi fleet, terror of 3 spiral arms, found itself at the mercy of a single human vessel that had transcended the very laws of physics they had thought immutable. And Commander Harrison hadn't even shown them everything the Prometheus could do. The Xarthi Admiral made his decision. Rather than surrender, he roared a battle cry that echoed across all frequencies. "All ships, open fire. Destroy this abomination." Commander Harrison shook her head slightly. "Their choice is made. Mercury, initiate combat protocols. Let's make this quick and clean." The space around the Prometheus erupted into a dance of light and shadow as 32 Xarthi vessels unleashed their full arsenal. Plasma torpedoes, quantum-tipped missiles, and particle beam weapons converged on the human ship from every angle. It was enough firepower to obliterate a small moon. "Impact in 3 seconds," Rodriguez announced calmly, all weapons registering in normal space. Harrison's fingers danced across her quantum interface. "Initiate defensive pattern echo. Show them why conventional attacks are useless." The Prometheus's hull rippled as the barrage approached. Instead of raising shields or attempting to evade, the ship simply shifted. Each incoming weapon passed through the space where the Prometheus appeared to be, only to find their target existed a fraction of a second out of phase with normal time-space. "No damage," Chen reported with professional satisfaction. "Their weapons are passing through our quantum wake. Shall we return fire, Commander?" "Target their weapon systems only," Harrison ordered. "Minimal casualties if possible." The Prometheus's response began with a subtle distortion of space around its quantum-folded hull. Weapon ports that existed in higher dimensions locked onto multiple targets simultaneously. The ship's attack pattern resembled a lethal ballet, each movement precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. "First wave firing," Rodriguez announced, targeting solutions plotted through dimensional folds 3 through 7. Beams of energy that seemed to bend reality itself lanced out from the Prometheus. They struck the Xarthi vessels from angles that their shields couldn't possibly defend against. Each hit was surgically precise, carving out weapon emplacements and engine nodes with microscopic accuracy. 8 vessels disabled, Mercury reported. Their crews are intact, but their offensive capabilities are neutralized. The remaining Xarthi ships attempted to adapt, their commanders desperate to find some way to combat this impossible opponent. They tried rotating shield frequencies, changing formation patterns, even attempting to predict where the Prometheus would appear next. "They're learning," Harrison noted with a hint of approval, "but not quickly enough. Chen, show them pattern lambda." The engineering officer's hands flew across her console. The Prometheus seemed to split into multiple copies of itself, each one existing in a slightly different dimensional plane. The Xarthi targeting systems went completely haywire, unable to determine which version was real, because they all were. "How is this possible?" The Admiral's voice cracked across the command channel. "You cannot exist in multiple spaces simultaneously." "Actually, we can," Harrison replied as another wave of quantum-folded attacks disabled 3 more ships. "Your understanding of physics is too limited by conventional thinking. Reality has so many more dimensions than you imagine." The battle devolved into a one-sided demonstration of technological superiority. The Prometheus danced between moments of time and space, its weapons striking from vectors that the Xarthi ships couldn't even detect, let alone defend against. Each attack was precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy, demonstrating not just superiority but mercy. 27 vessels neutralized, Rodriguez reported. Remaining ships are attempting to retreat, but our dimensional wake is preventing quantum jump initiation. Harrison watched as the mighty Xarthi fleet, pride of their empire, was systematically reduced to floating hulks, their weapons and engines surgically removed by attacks that seemed to ignore the very laws of physics. The Admiral's flagship remained untouched, forced to watch as his command was dismantled with almost casual ease. "Final attack pattern," Harrison commanded. "Let's wrap this up." The Prometheus's hull began to pulse with patterns that made the fabric of space-time ripple like water. What happened next would be debated in alien military academies for centuries to come, as the laws of physics themselves seemed to bow to human ingenuity and determination. The age of Xarthi military supremacy was about to end, not with a massive battle between fleets, but at the hands of a single human vessel that had transcended the boundaries of conventional warfare. The Xarthi admiral stood amid the chaos of his flagship's bridge, watching tactical displays show the systematic dismantling of his once proud fleet. His cybernetic eyes recorded everything, streaming the footage back to the Empire's military command through quantum channels that could not be blocked. "This must be witnessed," he growled to his communication officer. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Let every species know what we face." His voice trembled not with fear, but with the weight of revelation. "We were wrong about humanity. Catastrophically wrong." Commander Harrison watched from the Prometheus as the transmission began spreading across subspace channels. Dozens of alien civilizations, many of whom had dismissed humanity as primitive upstarts, were about to receive an education in human ingenuity. "They're attempting to compile sensor data from multiple ships," Mercury reported. "Their systems are struggling to process what they're seeing. Several of their quantum computers have crashed attempting to model our attack patterns." Harrison nodded, satisfied. "Good. Let them try to understand. The attempting will teach them more than success ever could." On the main screen, the Admiral's broadcast continued, his words carrying across the galaxy. "This is Fleet Commander Vexthor of the Xarthi Empire. What you are witnessing is not deception or technological trickery. The humans—" He paused, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The humans have mastered physics we believed impossible." The Prometheus executed another series of dimensional shifts, its hull flowing like liquid mercury as weapon ports appeared and disappeared through spaces that shouldn't exist. Each movement generated new waves of panic among the watching alien species. "Their vessel moves like a ghost," the Admiral continued, his professional composure cracking. "It exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our weapons pass through it like mist, while their attacks come from vectors our shields cannot comprehend. They are not bound by the laws of physics as we understand them." Rodriguez monitored the spreading transmission. "Sir, we're being watched by at least 40 different species now. The number is growing exponentially. Several major civilizations have gone into emergency military sessions." "Perfect," Harrison smiled. "Chen, give them something really special to think about. Execute maneuver Quantum Echo." The Prometheus's form began to blur, its outline multiplying across different planes of existence. To the watching aliens, it appeared to split into a dozen perfect copies, each one as solid and real as the others. The copies moved in perfect synchronization, their weapons firing through dimensional spaces that made senior alien physicists question their entire understanding of reality. "By the first stars," the Admiral whispered, his broadcast catching every word. "They fold space itself. Their ship, their single ship, it's everywhere and nowhere. Our fleet of 32 vessels, the pride of the Empire, reduced to floating hulks by attacks we couldn't even see coming." Harrison opened a channel to the flagship. "Would you like to surrender now, Admiral? Or shall we continue this demonstration?" The Admiral's scales had lost all color. "You could have destroyed us at any time, couldn't you? These precise strikes, disabling rather than destroying. This was mercy." "Of course," Harrison replied. "Humanity doesn't seek destruction, Admiral. We seek understanding. Sometimes that requires us to teach harsh lessons, but wholesale slaughter was never our goal." The Admiral's next words would be studied in diplomatic academies for generations to come. I hereby surrender my fleet to human authority. But more than that, I submit my formal recommendation to the Empire. Do not make war with humanity. They have transcended conventional physics. They have mastered dimensions we cannot perceive. And most terrifyingly of all, he looked directly into the camera, his cybernetic eyes glowing with fearful respect. They choose to show mercy even when they hold absolute power. As the transmission spread across the galaxy, the balance of power shifted irreversibly. The message was clear. Humanity was not the primitive species they had all assumed. They were something far more dangerous, innovators who had broken free from the constraints of conventional physics itself. In the silence that followed, Commander Harrison allowed herself a small smile. Earth Command's message had been delivered, not with grand fleets or brutal destruction, but with precision, efficiency, and undeniable proof of humanity's technological supremacy. As the Xarthi Admiral's surrender spread across subspace channels, Commander Harrison turned her attention to the aftermath. The Prometheus's hull slowly refolded into its standard configuration, though now there was no need to hide its true nature. The quantum wake from its dimensional shifts still rippled through space, causing sensor arrays across 3 sectors to produce ghostly echoes. "Mercury, begin rescue operations," Harrison ordered. "Priority on the ships with critical damage. Deploy quantum stabilization fields to prevent any reactor breaches." Deploying rescue drones through Dimensional Pocket 7, the AI confirmed. Medical teams standing by in emergency response bays. The bridge crew watched as sleek rescue pods emerged from spaces between spaces, their hulls shimmering with the same impossible geometries as their mothership. They'd move with precise efficiency, attaching to damaged Xarthi vessels and establishing safe corridors for crew evacuation. Commander Rodriguez called from his station, where receiving emergency transmissions from multiple ships. "Their crews, they're requesting asylum." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Asylum? Explain." A young Xarthi officer appeared on the main screen, his scales still pale from witnessing the battle. "Our people have lived in fear of being primitive, of being conquered by superior civilizations. We built bigger ships, stronger weapons, trying to prove our worth through force." He glanced at his readings of the Prometheus. "But you've shown us there's so much more to learn. Some of us want to understand, to study, to grow beyond our limitations." "Engineering teams report ready for rescue operations," Chen announced, her voice softening. "Several Xarthi engineers are already requesting technical discussions. They're eager to learn, Commander." Harrison stood from her command chair, surveying the battlefield that had become a rescue operation. "Grant them their requests. Mercury, coordinate with Earth Command. I want full medical support, technical advisory teams, and diplomatic personnel ready to receive our guests." The Prometheus's medical bays, hidden in pocket dimensions that made the ship far larger inside than outside, began receiving injured Xarthi crew members. The aliens' initial fear gave way to amazement as they were treated by human doctors using quantum-enhanced medical technology that seemed like magic to their eyes. "Message from Earth Command," Rodriguez reported. "They're laughing, sir. The footage of our encounter has already sparked diplomatic requests from 17 previously hostile species. They're calling it the Quantum Revolution." Harrison allowed herself a quiet chuckle. "Not bad for a primitive species with small ships, wouldn't you say?" The Admiral, now aboard the Prometheus as the ranking Xarthi officer, stood in the medical bay watching his crew receive treatment. "I must know," he asked Harrison when she came to check on the survivors. "Why choose mercy? With this technology, you could have destroyed us all." "Because that's not who we are," Harrison replied, watching human and alien medical teams working side by side. "Humanity didn't develop quantum folding technology to dominate or destroy. We did it to transcend limitations, to push the boundaries of what's possible." She gestured to the medical teams. "This is what we wanted all along: collaboration, understanding, growth." The Admiral's cybernetic eyes analyzed the quantum-folded spaces around them. You could have kept this technology secret, used it only for war, and live in constant fear like your people did. Harrison shook her head. No, true strength isn't about having the biggest guns or the most powerful ships. It's about having the wisdom to use your advantages to lift others up rather than push them down. As the rescue operations continued, the Prometheus became more than just a symbol of human military power. It became a beacon of hope, a promise that the galaxy's future didn't have to be determined by force alone. The ship that had been mocked for its size had become a bridge between civilizations, its quantum-folded spaces housing the beginnings of a new era of galactic cooperation. "Commander," Mercury announced, "Earth Command has designated the Prometheus as the first quantum diplomatic vessel. We're to begin accepting scientific and diplomatic delegations from all interested species." Harrison smiled as she watched human doctors teaching Xarthi medics about quantum-enhanced healing techniques. "Send word to command. Mission accomplished. The galaxy is ready for humanity's real gift, not the power to destroy, but the knowledge to transcend." The Prometheus, once mocked for its size, had become humanity's greatest ambassador, proving that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to create, to teach, and to show mercy.